Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Akash Thing, and today we are going to continue our Docker learning series. So in our last video, if you remember, we have Dockerized the portfolio website using Nginx method and the UVCon or Pythonic method, right? So today we are going to use the same personal portfolio website, but today we are trying to develop a production grade architecture for this dockerizing the portfolio website. So we'll continue using the same portfolio. So just let me open the portfolio website. So yeah, here you can see this is the complete portfolio, and at the bottom I have added a form. So if someone wants to get in touch, they can put their name, email, and message. So what we are going to do today is, instead of just hosting it, we'll also try to take user input and see if we are able to consume that input using a post method. So mainly we will be following three tier architecture here. One is Nginx, which will be used mainly to map the uh, routes, like what the internet will hit and what the actual API is hosted. So basically to connect that thing, we will be using Nginx, and then FastAPI for all the Python related tasks, and then Node.js for hosting the portfolio website. So if you look at the overall architecture, it's like we have here host port 80. So this host port 80 is something that will be open to the outside world. So it is like our access to internet, and there will be Nginx server, which is acting as a kind of the communicator between the services that we are offering, whether it's backend, whether it's front end, or there can be other services as well, like database, API, AI services, and how we are navigating the internet traffic to this particular service. So that's where Nginx is coming into picture. So what will happen is, like, let's say the user is here, he opens his Chrome browser, and on browser he will hit this let's say localhost colon 80, and this will navigate it to Nginx server, and Nginx will figure out whether I need to, like, it will decide whether I need to send it to backend service or to front end service, and based on that it will take the decision, and it will go to, based on the user request, it will go to, let's say, backend. Then in backend it will check what kind of service the user is looking for. So mainly the backend image will come in picture here, and based on that the UVCon, basically it will decide, let's say it is checking the status, so it will fetch the status and then it will return the status, and this will again go to user in their browser, and they can view it. So this is how, like, the complete picture appears. Hope it's clear. So basically it is acting as a bridge between the services that the user providing and the internet, and also it helps secure kind of provide security as well, so that the uh, user will not be having any information about the actual port or the IP address at which these backend services are hosted, and so they cannot simply better for from the security perspective as well. We can add more and more security at this place, right? So now let's jump to the next section. So which is our, let me erase this. So yeah, now looking at the project structure. So the project folder that we will define, it will have these important components. So the first one is your YAML file. So this YAML file, we will talk about it in a bit. and then there will be a backend service. So there is a folder for that. Then frontend service, there is a folder for that, and then there is a Nginx service. So this way we will have three different services running, and Docker Compose is something that will manage all these three services. This is how the architecture is going to be. And then in backend, what else are things we will have? It's like we will have Docker file. So Docker file will be common. So for each of the service, we must have Docker file. And then in Nginx also, you can see there is Docker files, and it will be defined as per that functionality. So the content will be different, but all of these are having a Docker file, which my Docker Compose YAML will manage. Then for backend, what all things we need? Main.py file, where we will navigate to the right route based on the user query, and then the requirement file to run the Python app. So there can be like some background or installations needed. Similarly, for frontend, we need all the packages, and then the important HTML files. Similarly, for Nginx, we only need this default.conf so that we can do this proxy setting. Now with that, let's go to the next slide. Fine. So backend wise, as I already covered, so in the main.py file, if you look, we will have these uh, functions, you can say. Mainly three functions. One is like a status kind of function, whether the app is running or not. Then second is health status. So whenever we are generating the image and running the container, so the health should come as status should come as healthy. So that's where this route will be useful. And then there is a contact. So this is kind of whatever the information that user is going to insert using our portfolio website. So that information it will try to capture and reflect. So it will fetch the name, email, and message, and stores it in the temporary memory, and then it will return as well. So it will return the name that it fetches and display in the user browser. Now here you can see there is get and there is post. So there are like different methods to make the request. So whenever we are hitting, let's say on Google, so what happens? Either it goes through get or post method. So for example, let me search dog, and let's open the inspect or developer option here, and here you can see at the bottom, let me refresh it. Here you can say get option, request method. Here you can see post option. So there are multiple options, and if you want to know all of them, you can open your Postman, and in the drop down you will get all the different options. So you can try to understand them. Maybe I will cover these different functions in some other videos, but today we are mainly going to use get and post. So what is the difference between get and post is like in get we just pass everything in the URL only. So like if we are passing here as dog, so you can see the URL is like this, search dog. So you can see the dog is already mentioned here. If I change it to, let's say, cat, you will see that cat will also come here, see. But this is not the right way or kind of secure way, because all the information is leaked. So anyone who can access this URL will have access to the complete like information. So whenever we are trying to log into some server or trying to access some secure kind of thing, at that time we call the post method. So what that post method is do, it's like it tries to compile everything inside the kind of JSON format or dictionary format. So it creates a body, and inside body only every information is enclosed, whether it's like username, password, or any other detail. So whatever things that is there, it is embodied in body, then it's encrypted, and then it's added in the URL. So anyone who is having access to this URL also, they are not able to figure out what is there getting passed. So this is a better or a secured version of like sending the request. So yeah, now let's come back. Yeah, so here you can now see we have a get and post method. So get is just checking the status or checking if the app is running or not, and post is just post is used when we are passing any information like the name or the email. So these are kind of more private kind of information which we don't want to leak. Now let's go through this code also. So here we have the code in the backend. So if you see here, we have we are importing the FastAPI. So this is important because we are going to create these routes through which like these APIs which can be accessible by anyone. So that's where this FastAPI is needed. We are using this FastAPI method. Then we have Pydantic. From Pydantic we are importing base model. So this base model is important whenever we are trying to kind of create a set of arguments which we may need to pass to a function or something. So for example, here we are creating this class contact, which will have these three information: name, email, and message. And then we are trying to extract it from the base model. So that is where like this base model, it helps us in trying to make these Pydantic checks, like if my name is in string, if my email is in a string, if my message is in a string or not. And based on that, it validates, and if there is any error, it tries to help in the debugging as well. So that's why we are using this base model, and then we are creating a wrapper on top of it. So our contact kind of class. Then we have a date time, so that we can fetch the current time or other date related things. Then we have here FastAPI. So we are initiating the FastAPI, and it is initiated with this title. So this is where app is initiated. Now let's go to the next section. So in function, what we have a app.get. So this is navigating me to this read root function. So whenever the user is writing like http localhost and then slash, so this will take it to this function, and this will give this message in return. Similarly, if the user type localhost slash health, then it will take it to this function, and it will give result as healthy. Similarly, if the user goes to this URL, then this function will get called, and it will return this complete message. So I hope this is clear and understandable. One more thing is like we have this contact DB, which is a kind of temporary variable that we have created, which is a list. So this is list. So what it tries to do is like it keeps appending the information that user passes with respect to timestamp. So you can see the name, email, message which the user pass. So whenever this URL is hit, it will have the information in the form of contact. So we can fetch those informations from that contact. And then we can pass that information again here and return it back, so that we can get confirmation that okay, whatever message user has given, so those are retrieved, and that's how we are confirming that we got your information. So I hope this main.py file is clear. Now let's try to discuss the Docker file as well for this backend. So I think if you have gone through the previous videos of mine, you will be able to relate, and you can easily understand like what is there. So the first thing that we have is the base image. So since it's more Pythonic function, so we are importing the light version of Python, so 3.12 Slim, and from this image we are now basically we are creating this app folder where we will place our files. So at first we are placing our requirement.txt file that we have here, so that we can install all the libraries. So here we are running this command, run pip install requirements.txt. So this will read the requirement.txt and start installing. And here we have passed no cache that, so that means like we don't want to like cache the downloads that is happening, because this is a one-time setup, and if we download it will slow down the process. So we want to keep the image size as small as possible, so that's where it's preferred to use this. So once the installation is done, we try to copy the main file into this image, which is our like the main module file, and then we try to expose this fast API on this 8000 port. So 8000 port as in like http colon localhost colon 8000. Now from here we can go either slash or slash health or slash what was that, contact. So this way we can access the different modules. So we'll see that. For now I hope you understood this. Now with that, let's navigate to the front end. So front end more or less based on this HTML and React based. So HTML we have mainly developed our portfolio website, and that is with minimum like Node.js kind of thing, and then we also used React 18 to just beautify it, and then these things we can ignore for now, not that much needed. It's saying that GitHub projects are also getting displayed in the profile, so yeah, that we can see here. So you can see this one, GitHub profiles. Then we also have this contact form, which is at the bottom, and that is developed using this React component contact form. So yeah, this is on high level what this HTML is. Let's try to understand the code also. So yeah, I forgot to explain what is there in the requirement. So in the backend, the requirement is mainly consist of FastAPI and the UV call. So FastAPI so that we can run our APIs, because we are importing FastAPI. So all the backend APIs will be hosted, and UV so that we can give like we can make the ports open. Now coming to front end, again we have a Docker file here as I already discussed, and then we have the HTML files, and this is the package.json where we are mentioning if there are any modules that needs to be imported. So mainly in pages you can see the HTML file and the Node.js file. Now what we need to write in the Docker file here, so we need to first import the image. So image is Node 20, again it's the Alpine version, and you can get different images as well here. It's not like you have to use Node this only. You can get a lighter version or you can get a different version as well. So you need to just go to Docker Hub. So here is the Docker Hub, and you can search the node image, like how I am doing here. So just click on node and you will see a lot of tags here, which I already guided earlier. So you can see different version, node 24, node 24 bullseye slim. So there is like a lot of version of this, and you can select any one. 22 slim you can select maybe the lighter one, and then you can go ahead. You can just replace this one. Now once that is done, the image set is done, image will be downloaded. Then what will happen is like it will create the app directory, similar to what we have done in the backend. So here again we will create the app directory and we will copy the JSON first, so that it's just like we copied the requirement. So similarly we will copy the JSON into this folder, and then we will try to install all the dependencies. And here we are adding one more dependencies, so we are installing that. So you can see we are installing curl and we are not keeping any cache. Now once the installations are done, we are copying all the remaining files into the current directory, and then in that we are exposing it to 3000 port. So just like how we have exposed our backend on I think 8000 port, here it is 3000 port. And then in the end we are starting the server by executing this command. So whenever we need to run any front end, so generally we use this npm run dev to start the server so that we can access the website. So I hope it's clear till now. So we are good with the front end and the back end. Now let's try to understand the Nginx service. So here let me just correct it here. Yes. So as we mentioned, like here we can first read. So Nginx single port exposed to host 80 and containers isolated on internal network. So all the other ports like this port 8000 or 3000 for front end and back end, they are not exposed. They are internal to the container. Only this 80 port is exposed to the outside world, and this Nginx will listen on this port, and what it will try to show the user this particular address and this particular address. So for backend related information, it will show this address, and for front end information, it will show this address. So for example, it will be local host. Of course, HTTP will be there, and then local host and colon 80/API or 80/API/status or 80/API/contact. So these are all the backend APIs that is open to internet or user. However, if you remember, for internal consumption we have used not 80 here, but here we have used 8000, and for this contact we have used 8000 and contacts, this path. So this is the difference. So what user is seeing is not the actual one. This is what Nginx want to show, and this is what is actually there. So here the same mapping is done. So this is the way we define. So we give a location to like backend, and then proxy path will be this. Similarly for front end, we give the location, proxy path, and this. We can add additional details as well here, but yeah, for now we don't need that. The other thing is like here you can see what is saying. There is a star. So this star means that we can add any backend functionality after this API. So you can see this is one of the functionality, this is second functionality, so like this. Similarly for front end we can use a star after slash only. And here it's saying that we have shown this to the user like this one, while this is the actual at backend, which is this one. So yeah, this is all here about the Nginx like default.config file and why it's important. So here we only do the port mapping, right? And then we have Docker Compose. So before going to Docker Compose, let's go to the script file that we have here. Let me open Nginx and the default.conf. So you can see same thing is here. We have defined the server and what Nginx will listen to and where it will navigate to. I hope I simplified it quite enough so that you can understand it. Now we have a Docker file for Nginx as well, and here we are trying to first import the Nginx image, and then we are trying to remove the current default config file that is there, and then we are replacing that file with our current the file that we have created here in this folder, and we are exposing Nginx to port 80. And by default it's running this command which I have mentioned in my last video what this command is. So basically it's trying to keep the like Docker image running, container running, so that it's not turned off. But however I have commented because this Nginx image is already having that command, so whether you uncomment it or not, that doesn't matter. And for testing, if you want to test, you can turn like you can uncomment this one sleep. So what this will do, this will override this command, and your container will sleep, or your container will be stopped just after running, and then you won't be able to access the website on this port. So yeah, now let's talk about this Docker Compose. So as I already mentioned about this Docker Compose, which is like kind of managing all the three services: frontend, backend, and Nginx. So it's very important how we define this Docker Compose file. So this is a high level overview of the Docker Compose. We'll go deep into the code file as well, but this is how it is. Like at first we try to give services in the top, and then we mention all the services as you can see. So there can be database, there can be AI services, there can be API services. So it can be like a number of services, and then for each services we try to build it. So this will execute our Docker file. That's why we have build. And then the port mapping. So again, if you remember, we used to have port mapping for backend for our portfolio website dockerization. So here we can change it as well. 8000 to 7000 we can map, or we can keep the same port. And then here we are also adding one functionality that we are checking the health before we are saying that this service is running. We are doing a health check. Similarly for front end, we are first building the image, and then we are exposing the port, and then we are also mentioning that if there is a dependency or not. So since front end and back end, front end is having some dependency on the back end, because we need the user will be passing the contact information, and the output should also come from there. So that's where backend has to run, otherwise the front end will give error. So that's where I have added this as backend service, and it should give a healthy service. Then only like this front end will container will start. Again, we are checking the health status of front end as well. And in the Nginx, we are first building the Nginx image, and then we are port mapping it to 8080, and then finally we are also mentioning what are it depends upon. So it depends upon both front end and back end. So it will check the status. Only when it is good, then it will start. So you can see this is the route in which it is flowing. Now let's try to go through the docker compose file. So yeah, here we have the docker compose file. So as I mentioned already, it is having services, and then we have backend, we have frontend, and we have the what you say, the Nginx. And in backend we have this backend build and then port mapping, and then this is kind of check. And here we are like doing 5 retries of check at and this checking will start after 5 seconds of the container start, and there is a timeout, like if there is no response in 5 seconds, then it should trigger the next try. And this is the after, like what should be the gap between two retries. And here we are trying to mainly test what. So we have this backend link, right? The internal backend link. So 8000 port is exposed. So it is basically sending a request here and checking what is the output. Based on that, it is saying whether health check is passed or not. Similarly, for front end as well, you can see we are using this curl command uh, to hit this URL, the 3000 port where the backend front end is hosted. So you can see this in the Docker file, 3000 port, and then it's checking the status. And similar kind of retries and timeout, all those things are there. And in the bottom we have Nginx. So here also we are checking the status based on the status information that we already get from these two. So I hope till now it's clear. So let's jump back to the presentation. So here we have to now build the images. So first will be backend image, then will be front end image, and then will be Nginx image. Next is like the flow of the how the information will flow. So which I already explained in the beginning. So we'll see this in detail. Now let's start executing the let's open the terminal to execute this docker compose file. So the to run the docker compose, so we need to execute this command, docker compose up dash t. So it will, what it will do, it will create the image all for all the three services, front end, backend, and the Nginx, and then it will also start the container for these services. So based on the information that we have provided. So let's hit enter, and before hitting enter, let's check in the Docker desktop if my engine is running. Yeah, it's running. And then check the image. So it's empty for now, and container is also empty. So let me just hit and see here. You can see all the image it's trying to download, it's not available from the Docker hub, and then it's starting to build the image. So build is successful. I think it took around 11 seconds, and then it is trying to check the status of the. So you can see this is created and this is healthy. So first of all it check the status of backend, then it's checking the status of front end. Once front end is there, then it has started the Nginx. So now if we want to navigate to this, so you can see all the three images are here with the name like front end, backend, and Nginx. And you can also see the size of those different images. I think this backend is the most bulky one, front is also a bulky one only. Then let's go to the containers. So here you can see this is the Docker compose, like a high level container, and these are all the internal containers to that. And here you can see all the images that it's executing, and then the CPU consumption, memory consumption, and disk space, so all those things here, and how old it started, so those things are also here. Now let's try to access this. So if you remember, we have hosted our application to the user on this portal. So let's hit this link, and you can see I can access it on this local host. Now if you look at this, this is my my personal one, which is hosted on my personal local folder, but this is something that is hosted on the local host, and you can see the exact information, same information that is coming up here. Now you will say like, where is this 80 port? So for that, let's try to open inspect. There is a shortcut also, Control Shift I. So if I hit Control Shift I, you can see the inspect is open here. Again, you can change this view. So already if you want, if it's coming for you here, then you can just go on this and select this or this. So this will change the view. Now if I just refresh this, you can see this is the time it took to run and fetch the information. And now if I go a little down, here you can see the localhost. Now when I click on this localhost, you can see the information that is displayed here. HTTP localhost, and the remote address or the port number is 80. So you can see right 80 here, which is what we have hosted it. Now let's try to check the status, like API slash what was that? Let's check the here. Yeah, the slash will give me portfolio API is running. So let's see if it is giving or not. You can see it's giving portfolio API is running. If we want to get this healthy message, we need to hit healthy. So let's add healthy here. See, status healthy you are getting. Yeah, here this is what I wanted to say. API localhost API health or port 80. Yeah. So this is where we are getting this health. If we hit that API at that time, so it was this one. So if I hit it again, you will see 3 healthy here. So see 1, 2, 3. Hope it's clear now. Now see, our container is hosted where? On this port, right? Let's try to access this. Let's try to access the backend. This is also giving me the result. See API. Let's see, not found. But if I hit just contact, not contact, the health, I can see healthy. So this address and this address, you can see the comparison. But this address information will not be available to anyone who is outside the organization. This information only I can see if I have access to my Docker desktop. If I have access to my all these containers. The outside world will have just access to this one. They won't. We will be exposing this only, because this is where we are able to fetch all the information, whether we want to connect to backend, whether we want to connect to front end. We have that thing, right? So if I just hit this, see, we are getting the website. So why we need to host, why we need to expose this, right? So these will be secured at our end only, so they won't have access to it. For example, if I hit this 3000, it will also open the same website. See, so I hope it's getting clear for you. Yeah, now let's try to do one thing. Let's try to pass the information here. So here you can see this name is there. So let's try to add Akash Gupta mail. Just mention anything. Hi, how are you? And when I will send this message, let's see what is happening and how this port or something, if there is any change happening or not. So you can see it has returned me Akash Gupta we will be in touch. So it has loaded, like it has successfully achieved, like received the information which I sent from here, right? Using that post command that we talked about. So let's see if we have it here. So here you can see in the contact we have the uh, API slash contact. So this got called, and there was the post method which sent this. Now let's see if we can see the information that we sent. Yeah, here you can see those informations, the payload. So this information is exactly what we sent to our Python application. And this is the information that we got. So you can see in the response. So this is how it generated. So you can see like all the things are working. So you have seen like how this is working. We are not exposing the internal container port, but we are just exposing this external container port to the outside world, and through that the user is able to go through. So now let's see here what we have done right now. So user fills the information form, that is right, and then browser posts it using this API contact which we have seen, and then it matches the location. So since API came, so it matches it to backend, which we have given in the that default config file. And then once it goes here, then the FastAPI receives this post contact information. So these two details it get, the FastAPI, the backend module, and there it will try to first pass the JSON body whether it is having all the information or not, like name, email, and in the correct data type, and then it appends those things into the contact DB, which was the list that we initiated, and then it returns this information. So I think it's very clear, right, what we have done just now. And this information comes here, which I have shown in the network, like this complete dictionary is coming, and it tries to parse that dictionary in the React formats and renders it. So yeah, this is all what happening here. Yeah, now let's try to see the logs as well if you want. So for that, let's try to run this command. You can see there are multiple hits, and you can see all of them are giving 200. Okay. Similarly, we can check for front end as well. You can see front end is running on this server. So yeah, I think this is the way we can check the logs. Now this is the demo that we have done. So we have sent the contact form information in using this contact form, and we are able to retrieve it. And then we also try to check the logs and build the Docker file and the container and the image, and yeah, it works successfully. So just to summarize, like some of the commands that we have used is like these all. And now let's try to bring down the container that is running here. So let's just do one thing before setting down all of them. Let's just stop this one. So you can see I have stopped this Nginx container. Now if I try to run this particular thing, it will not run. See, I will just refresh this, it will give error because I have like stopped the container, so the mapping is gone now. But this one, if I refresh, it keeps on running. See, it's running. If I paste this in some other tab also, it will run. See. So this is my internal server which is running, but for user I have stopped it. Now let's restart it, and you will see this up again. So this is things happening, like this is how things happen in production also. Now we can use the command to uh, bring down all the container. What is the command? Docker compose down, I think. Yeah, Docker compose down. So once I hit this, all the container will be shut down and removed as well. So here you can see the containers are gone. Only the image are here. This we can either use that command, or we can manually, like from here we can remove all these images. I think anything will be shown now. You can see nothing is there because we have removed and deleted everything. So with this, what are the key takeaways? First is like Docker Compose. We understood how to define Docker Compose to for this multi-service apps, right? And also how we can do health check and dependency ordering. So then we also learned about Nginx and how it act as a single entry point, and how we can route request to write backend or frontend service. Then we also learned about FastAPI, which helps in providing automatic request validation via using this Pydantic thing. Then we learned about the React website, and then the end-to-end flow, like from browser to Nginx, Nginx to backend, and backend to response, and then to browser again to prove that the full life cycle is working. And the important thing is like each of these service is working on their own container, which we have seen also, and they are independently deployed. So each of these services are independent of each other. But if we have defined some dependency, then that dependency has to meet to make the other container run or work properly. So yeah, I think this is all I wanted to cover in this session. I hope you liked this session and you have enjoyed it. In next session, we will try to cover the Docker volume thing. I hope you will be excited for this session. Let me know if you have any feedback for me. So with that, thank you, and thank you very much. Please like, subscribe, and share your feedback. Thank you.